And I talk so much about trying to work on improving and being better every day and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we've got to be content. It's okay to just live your life. Do what makes you happy. Try not to ruin happiness for others. Just keep it really simple. There doesn't have to be a meaning to everything we do. Haiku. Cannot live without this want that became a need. Have I mistaken? Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Carlton Cullins here in South Austin, Texas, and welcome to Mixtape Gumbo. This week, I want to talk about wants versus needs. Sounds so heavy. What are our needs? What do we need? What do we want? What are things that we want, and why do we want them? Do wants become needs? I don't know. I don't have any answers to any of this stuff. That's why I want to throw it out there and get you to marinate on it. It's interesting. I think it's important for us to think about this stuff. I think it can be fun. It can be serious. It can make you go deep within. But it's important to have some clarity on it, even if clarity is not needed, even if there really is no way of getting clarity on some of these ideas. But right off the top of my head, it seems like there is some division. When I think about true needs, I think about things that are long-term, essential for our survival. Air, water, food, shelter. I would even argue love. These are important for our health, our long-term survival. Wants. What are our wants? Why do we want them? I think about wants, I think maybe more short-term, things that are not essential for our survival. But at some point along the way, this thing called life, some of our wants maybe become needs. Sometimes people desire things that over time, they become something that we feel we can't live without. And does that put them into the needs category? I don't know. I said I have no answers on any of this stuff, but it's interesting. It can be fun, and it can be important for clarity purposes for us to think about this stuff. It's easy for us to take granted the things that we need, especially things like I just mentioned, air, water, food, shelter. Things that, because we're in a first world country, most everybody has relatively easy access to these things, arguably. So it's easy for any of us, even the poorest of people, to take this stuff for granted. And I get mad at myself because I take it for granted some days too, and it makes me upset. I never want to take these things for granted, and if I do, I don't want to do it very too long. I try to keep myself in check, but this is something that each of us has to do. But it's important, particularly if you have children right now, or if you know somebody who's a grown-ass adult and they're not appreciating their needs, the things, their essentials, the things that we have for our survival. It's important to put people in check, I think, because, man, things that we want, I think I see things as like what we want having no end. My mom used to say that, wanting things, wanting more will never end. It's like getting sugar. Once you get some sugar, you want some more sugar. Once you get some money, most people want more money. And it never ends. This cycle never ends. The want for things, a lot of times are even external things. Sometimes they're internal things like acceptance or attention, satisfaction. Things that could be argued that they're needs, could be argued that they're wants. For some people, it could be either or. It may change over time. But, these are things that have no end. It's like you've got to be careful with the want. If you don't appreciate what you already have, you'll probably never, any of us will never appreciate what we get. And my good friend growing up, Jay, used to say that all the time. And I hear that ring in my head. It's important for me to remember that myself. But I say all this stuff because I'm doing this podcast, and it's Christmas in a few weeks. It was Thanksgiving last week, and Thanksgiving in America just gets mowed over. It's mainly like people watch football and eat turkey. It's funny. I don't know how many people actually really think about being thankful for the things that they have, the people in their lives, even if you're just living in solitude, just your own life, your own ideas, your own thoughts. Needs versus wants. It's interesting to think about this stuff from time to time. It's interesting if you've ever, write down the things that you feel like you need, things you can't live without, and things that you want. Uh, it's very, very interesting. But there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with wanting things. There's nothing wrong with wanting material things. There's nothing wrong with having things. I think it just, in my opinion, things need to be put in check. Because I know myself, I'm not rich by any means, and I have way more than I need. And some days that bothers me. I'm trying to clear out things more and more. But I try to be careful with what I bring in now, things that I get, things that I want. I ask myself, do I really need them? And will they bring me joy? Will they bring me, because if they don't, if I don't need them and they don't bring me joy, at this point in my life, I don't want them. And when I think about all the people out there that really are in need of things that are essential for survival, things that you or I may already have, I think it's important that we realize there is a difference between needs and wants, and we help people that are in need all year round, not just around the holidays. But anyway, I want to end with a funny story, a lesson that I've definitely learned in life. You know, us as individuals, we're going to have to deal with other people. And sometimes when you're dealing with strangers, you don't know what they want, especially these days. I often, in my mind, ask myself, just so I can try to get some clarity, some insight when I'm dealing with people I don't know. I ask myself, what do they want? Is there something they need from me? Or is there something they want from me? Or is it something they're trying to take from me? And it's funny. It can be a fun little game and stuff like that. But there's some people that take this to a whole new level. I have a friend of mine who's now a paleobotanist, but years ago he was in school, in college, and he was with a group of scientists that needed to go on some private property to look at fossils. They needed to get access to this land. This land was owned by Ted Turner. If you don't know who Ted Turner is, Google him. Interesting man, very powerful, rich man who's accomplished. I would assume because he's so wealthy, people approach him every day wanting money from him. But when people want things like that from you, they beat around the bush and they waste your time. And all of us, we have a limited amount of time. So if you're like I am, I get tired of people wasting my time. It's probably my biggest pet peeve. So he's taking this to a whole new level. He wants people, if they want something from him, to write it on an index card in one sentence. What do they want? And give it to him. And if you want $100 million from him, he just wants you to ask for it. Don't beat around the bush. Do you want money from me? He gets these cards and he looks at it and he'll basically tell whoever, maybe his assistant or manager or whatever, yes or no. Okay, I'm okay with that. So they asked him, if they could come onto the land, yes or no. He was like, yes. But I think it's an interesting way to go about life. Sometimes, man, when you don't have a lot of time, people are bugging you. In a very nice way, you can just ask them, what do you want? What do you need? We could get to the place where we all want to go a lot sooner. I wish the world worked a little bit more like that. We could easily communicate our ideas. I know people have differences in opinions and stuff like that, but it's nice to know people's intentions. When I don't know somebody's intentions myself, I'm a lot less willing to help somebody. But when I know somebody's got, good intentions and honest, intentions, they express those to me, then, makes everything a lot easier going. But anyway, let's move on. All right, so switching gears, I want to talk a little bit about traditions and rituals. These are things that when I was younger, it sounded so grown up and so unappealing to me. I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger, for certain reasons, for a while, I didn't like the holidays and Christmas so much. I've definitely grown to love it again. But for anybody out there listening who doesn't like the holidays, doesn't like other people celebrating things, I feel you. I understand where you're coming from. And you're always going to be in the mood to have other people around you celebrating when you don't feel the same way. But it's important to realize that we need to be thankful when other people are celebrating, especially when it's something positive that's not doing any harm to others. If somebody's celebrating something that does harm to others, I'm not down with that either. But for the most part, people are typically just celebrating is a way of celebrating life. So when other people are happy, even if we're not happy, it's important to let them be happy, particularly if it's something positive. It's important for all of us to do that. But, I've mentioned before in other episodes that I've got a fun list. It's always somewhere. I've got it written down in an email or on a piece of paper or something, whatever. Got it somewhere to refer back to, because sometimes, man, you get busy and, years go by fast, weeks go by fast, days go by fast, time just goes by fast. If you're not careful, life goes by fast. I don't like that myself. I like to enjoy the years, so every time of the year, we've got these seasons, whether you actually feel the weather or not, time is changing and there are seasons. Me and my wife have been together almost 10 years. We've been married for the last 5 years. Something we started doing right off the bat is we started doing things that we really enjoyed around certain times of the year. You do stuff in the summer that you might not do during the holidays or during winter. It doesn't matter what it is, but just things that are fun, things you'd maybe like to repeat in the future. These can become traditions. They always joke about America because America, we're just a young country. We have so many cultures here that they've all get mixed together, which, is a beautiful thing. But in a lot of ways, we don't have the traditions and cultures that maybe older areas do, like Europe and Asia and stuff like that. So it's important that we have some kind of tradition, even if it's just you by yourself. And maybe you don't have a lot of friends and family or any at all. You still can have traditions. I think rituals, things that we do year to year so that we notice the passing of time. If you're not aware of it, like I said, time just goes by so fast. But I have these things written down, man. I like to write this stuff down on a list and be mindful of it. I don't want to plot everything down every single day. No, I like to be spontaneous, but at the same time, I like to have a list going so that I'm mindful. It's kind of in the background. It's amazing when you put things on a list. Eventually, it's like they will get done. Not always, but it's nice to have things that I want to do certain parts of the year. Say this time, winter is coming. There's things I like to do in the winter that I don't do in the summer, so I write those down. And maybe it's holiday stuff that me and my brother do, or me and my friends, or me and my wife, or I do by myself, or whatever. Your family, whatever you do. But having stuff that you like to do, write it down so you don't forget, because it's easy to forget these things. But traditions are fun. Togetherness is fun. But even if you're just alone, I've been alone many years in the past. I've done things. I do a lot of things still, even now, alone. And it's important that you have those rituals too. They're things so that you celebrate life and you appreciate and notice the passing of time. I think that's essentially what I'm talking about. I definitely have music and songs and stuff that I listen to certain parts of the year. I just inevitably. In my iTunes, I have all these playlists that I've made, and I'm constantly updating them and stuff like that. I'm going to share a video on the Facebook page. Like I said, go to Facebook, find Mixtape Gumbo, but I'm going to put a song up there from a group that is very important to me called Fishbone. They're like a punk, ska, rock, funk. I don't know, it's hard to describe. They're a very unique band, but they had a song that I've often said would be one of the songs if I was going to have a wake or even a funeral. This is one that I would want played there. It's called Unyielding Conditioning, and it's beautiful. There's a line there that says, we've all been claimed by our worlds, but I have heard of ways, they say that there's a light beyond the darkness, and that everyone can keep their children warm, and togetherness will guide us safely through all the storms. And it's a beautiful psalm. I want you to check it out. It's an unusual style. It may turn you on to something you've never heard before. I also want to end, I heard a quote. There's a guy, I think he was born in the early 1900s, became a philosopher. I don't know how people quote unquote become a philosopher, but he's known as a philosopher. His name's Alan Watts. I got turned on to him recently, and now that I know who he is, I keep noticing people writing and putting up quotes about him, and he does seem to put some cool quotes up. So there's a girl that I know put up a quote the other day, and it was from him, and it said this. It said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet everyone rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. And man, when you see something and you read something like that, and deep and down inside, you know it's true. It resonates with you. It's powerful. I think it's important, man. We get so caught up, and I talk so much about trying to work on improving and being better every day and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, we've got to be content. It's okay to just live your life. Do what makes you happy. Try not to ruin happiness for others. Just keep it really simple. There doesn't have to be a meaning to everything we do. And that's why it goes back to the rituals, whether it's you with other people or you alone. Find stuff that makes you appreciate your own life. It's super, super important. I wish everybody the best on that. Let's move on. All right, so it's time for a little health and fitness. I never wanted to make this a health and fitness show, but yes, I work as a personal trainer, and yes, I deal with this stuff all the time, so I do always want to talk a little bit about some aspects of it. But as it relates back to wants versus needs, I want to talk about something it's important, I think, for people to hear. What we want. When people come to me that I don't know, working as a personal trainer, people tell me what they want, what their goals are. And I need them. I want them to do this. It's important for people to know, for you to know, for myself to know what we want and why. It's clear. The more clear you are on those, the better everything is. So those are our wants. That's our goals, what we want. The needs. We need to find out what you need in order to get what you want, because they go hand in hand. And this, I'm going to need to do some assessment. I'm going to need to do some testing, to ask some questions, to figure out what it is that you're lacking that you may need in order to help you get to your goal. And if you're doing this for yourself, you're not hiring a trainer, you're doing it by yourself with anything in life. This is what you've got to figure out. If you've got something you want, your goal, you need to figure out what you need in order to get there. But the way I want to relate these today is follow through. Because you can want all your heart's desire. Want. This is what I want in life. It doesn't have to be health and fitness. It could be anything. It always applies to everything. But with health and fitness, say you want to lose some weight. What do you need to do? And whatever that need is, that is the action. That is what you need to follow through. So many times, all I hear is what people want. And sometimes we figure out what they need, or I maybe suggest things that I think would help them get to their goal, things that they need to do consistently. If that is not followed through, if you don't do what you need to do, you will not get what you want. And it's so clear. It seems so obvious, but for so many people, it's not. And I understand that it's not easy. It is not easy. It may be simple, but simple and easy aren't the same thing, So figuring out what you want and why, and figuring out what you need, and then the follow through, the consistency. Not doing too much, not doing too little, just doing enough consistently over time. The tortoise will beat the hare. It's always better to go slow and steady towards your goal. Every time I see somebody run fast to their goals, so often they burn out. I've seen this all my life. I started playing in bands when I was in, early high school. And, I used to watch people get so aggressive. They wanted to be a rock star so fast that by 21 years old, they were already burnt out. Or 30 years old, they're already burnt out. It was something that I'm 43. I enjoy music the same as I did when I was 12. It never changed because I didn't run to my goals. I still believe in walking. When it comes to health and fitness, whatever it is, don't don't get so obsessed that you want to run your goals. You may want to lose a lot of body fat. You may need to lose a lot of body fat or make a lot of other changes in other areas of your life or health. But don't just run to them. Walk slowly. Do what you need to do consistently. I know it sounds so obvious, and you're like, maybe you've got some specific questions. Write me if you do. I'm always here to help. But when it comes down to it, you either do what you do to get to what you want or you don't. Wherever you're at right now, I always tell people, and I don't mean this to offend anybody, but if you're not happy with where you're at right now, then you've got to realize that what you've been doing up to this point has got you to where you're at right now. And if you're not happy with that, not happy with where you're at, you've got to change something. If you don't, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing, expecting these new results. So if you want something and you're not doing the things you need to do to change it, then nobody can help you. See what I'm saying? So whatever your goal is, I promise you, it's not going to come down to any fancy tricks, magic pills, any secrets. It's going to come down to doing a few things really well until the work gets done. When will you know you've reached your goal? When you've reached your goal. When you've done enough, it will be enough. And it may be different than somebody else. It may be different than the time you did it before. But things are always changing. But I know this. Do what you need to do, and you can oftentimes get what you want. I hope this helps. I'm only saying this to be positive. I'm only saying this to help people. I wish everybody the best. If you've got any thoughts on this stuff, you can always write me. If you've got any thoughts on anything that we talked about today, find me on Facebook. I've got a page on there, MIXTAPE GUMBO. I'd love to hear your stuff. I post stuff from each episode on there, things I'd love you to check out, things you can investigate because I want to inspire. I want to get everybody to get their creative juices flowing, think about things that maybe you're not thinking about. I want to make the whole world a better place. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about core values. I've done some recent things where I kind of try to define my core values, as cheesy as that may sound. But it was really fun, and I found out a lot of things that were really interesting. So I want to share those with you. But anyway, that's enough for this week. I wish everybody the best. Have a wonderful holiday season, even if you're listening to this in June. And remember that everybody looks better with a smile. See you next time.